Welcome, everybody, to Enhancing the Accountant Bookkeeper Connection series featuring my awesome friend and accountant, Jonathan Carter from CATA Accounting. And I had the pleasure of finally meeting his wife, and I have to say they are so well suited. I love Julia, very, very well suited. I've not seen anybody that is that perfect for each other in a long time. So there we go. Yeah, I just love her. So just had to throw that out there too. Anyway, so hello, I am Tanya Hiltz. I'm CPB and AIA, which is Accredited Impactful Advisor. And I am here because I am passionate about collaboration. And you can find me at Tanya's Bootcamp. A little bit about me. I need to update my picture as well too. But the last and reigning into a global firm of the future, which of course is a huge credit to my team. One of my team members is here today. So yay, Sandra. Thank you. I was named as Insightful Accountant Top 100 Pro Advisor 2018 through 2020 and the Top Canadian Pro Advisor through 2020. Founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeeper Bootcamp. I'm a level 5 certified advisor through Mentor Plus, which is where I also earned my AIA designation, a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and a current director for CPB Canada. And I did not update this again. Apologies for the conference recovery. So let's just go with this. Was such a great quote. I thought I would do it another month here because it's been a few months since it. So this is from Helen Keller. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And I think everybody within our community absolutely agrees and exudes that.
I'll be interested to see hear your thoughts about our next blog that should be coming out today.
Oh, well, then I can.
CPBA takeaways.
Awesome. Okay. That's cool. And yeah, I always take away from conferences that I love meeting and connecting with the people. I learn so much more by connecting. So if I don't make it to any sessions, I don't feel so bad because as long as I've learned from connecting with somebody, which I do all the time. So this webinar does qualify for CPD credits through CPD Canada. There will be 2 polls that must both be answered in order to qualify. These polls will be stated verbally today, and you must put the answers in the chat in order to qualify. And a recording of the webinar and your CPD credits will be emailed within 2 days. So it's very important that if you have unsubscribed or don't get your email, it may have been because you've unsubscribed from us. In order to resubscribe, this is what you need to do. So if you don't get your CPD credits in 2 days, it's because you've somehow unsubscribed for this. And this is how we send everything out, is through Flowdesk to make sure that we are in compliance with our CASA laws. So again, you will need to go in and re-add yourself if you don't get it. And then just let me know afterwards that you're re-added so I can resend it out. And we are now featuring the wonderful and awesome Jonathan Carter, who is a founder and principal accountant of CATA Accounting Solutions. My team has been collaborating with Jonathan and his team for a number of years. We have multiple mutual clients. One thing that I love about Jonathan is that him and the whole team, they work in QBO, they pay attention to detail. And I found out why that is because I still thought I understood the difference between the old CAs, CGAs, and CMAs, but apparently no, it's the CMAs that work in the details. So they're just like us. So that makes perfect sense on everything. And every accountant that I consider a valued friend and colleague, turns out they're all CMAs as well too. Surprise, surprise. So yay to the old CMAs, and let's bring that back. Anyway, and of course they provide outstanding customer service. So I am going to let you, Jonathan, take it away.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to be talking about blockchain bookkeeping. Can everyone see my screen okay? Yeah. So this is really, it's about the basics. And the biggest takeaway I want everybody to have is it's not that scary. From a bookkeeping perspective, it is not that scary. We're just, like I said, we're going to stick to the basics today. I am by no means an expert. We do have customers who mine, customers who are working with NFTs, relatives who are working with NFTs, and then a variety of customers who are involved in cryptocurrency trading. So understanding this was important to me. Quite some time ago, I did get the IBM Blockchain Essentials certification, or whatever you want to call it. It was actually really not that difficult. And some of the things I learned, I'm going to convey today in our webinar. So just a couple of things about me. I'm the founder of CAD Accounting Solutions Professional Corporation. We're up to 6 people. We're looking for a 7th. The 7th we're looking for is in the CPA category. And we need that because I need to stop being the bottleneck, and we need somebody who can bring some additional tax expertise to the company. I was a member of the inaugural Intuit Accountants Council. That was such a fortunate opportunity. I got to meet so many amazing people right at the beginning and learn from them. So it was amazing. I do have a long-standing relationship with Intuit. I'm constantly working with various people at different levels to try and improve the product, because I would like to see it be a truly fantastic product. I was the recipient of the 2018 Inspire Accountant Award. That was very flattering because we did not apply. We were notified that we were nominated, and we were awarded this. And I think it was largely due to the bookkeeping community. So thanks for that. I am an elite. We are elite pro advisors. Some of our team is QBO Advanced certified. Everyone is QBO Basic certified and working towards the QBO Advanced, with the exception of Julia, who is our newest team member, our marketing coordinator. And as you'll notice, this template deck is quite different than the past presentations, which is why I missed the poll questions. I was Insightful Accountant 2021 and 22 Top 100 Pro Advisor. We do work with several cloud bookkeeping firms, either collaboratively or as a tax accountant, sometimes just in collaboration. You don't need to do business together to collaborate. I am considered a thought leader in technology and accounting, and I love working with technology. So today we have a pretty simple agenda. We're going to talk about blockchain, what it is. We're going to talk about how it applies to business, the tax things you have to be aware of, some basic bookkeeping examples, some record keeping, and of course, the big one is risk. So if anybody is investing in blockchain, I would encourage you to think of it as the highest risk category in your investment portfolio. So what is blockchain technology? Blockchain, think of it as blocks of data, groups of data that are encrypted, right? Everybody knows what encrypted means. It's protected by some kind of code key. You can't read the data without the key. So it's already somewhat secure there because it's in one block and it's encrypted. These blocks of data have 2 hashes. One connects to the previous block in the chain. So here's block number 1, here's block number 2. They're connected. So the ending hash in block number 1 is the starting hash for block number 2. As the code within the block changes, the outgoing hash changes. So if you're editing block number 2, the hash for there that would connect it to block number 3 is changing until it's solidified. And the thing that really makes blockchain powerful is it exists on a distributed ledger. So we're going to get into this a little bit more in the mining section, but essentially this means it exists on thousands of computers around the world. It takes the best computers in the world 8 to 10 minutes to do a proof of work and to validate the work on a single block of data. So to hack the blockchain, you would have to hack simultaneously the entire distributed ledger. And that number could be changing while you're working on it. So that's what really makes it secure. Encryption is nice, but the fact that it's verified all over the place is something else. And that's also what makes it completely auditable. Now, just a quick thing about that. These hashes identify things like a crypto wallet. That hash, unless that is tied to the individual's name or somebody can find it, it does remain anonymous, right? It's like a bank account number. Unless you go to the bank and you subpoena that information, you're not going to know who that bank account number might belong to unless you find it some other way. So I'd like to pause here just briefly and see if there are any preliminary questions. I hear crickets. So just to reinforce, blocks of data connected in a chain that are all over the internet. That's essentially what the blockchain is. So first thing everyone thinks of is cryptocurrency when they think of blockchain. Bitcoin is usually the first to mind. Ethereum, Ripple, Libra, Dogecoin, Litecoin. There are 20,000 in circulation, or more than 20,000. So there are different ways you can participate in cryptocurrency. Most of our customers are investing. So they're trying to buy on a dip, and they're holding and trying to sell at a top. So they're really trying to, it's pretty much like currency trading or gold or silver or something like that. And that's really the strategy they're taking. So this is a very specific type of tax treatment. Day trading is when people are in there every single day. They might be going from one crypto to another, back to the first. They're in there regularly. They're doing a lot of trades. This could be considered an active business income, not investment income. Now that's going to become important a little bit down the road. Any quick questions about cryptocurrency? Moving on. So cryptocurrency mining is essentially, yep.
Sorry, I was trying to add too many screens up. I was going to add one thing that I saw. So Rod's been doing this and doing the mining and all of this stuff. And this kind of does still go before the mining. And I just hear magic internet money. It doesn't exist, right? So, but it was, I think it was something that you had actually said in a conversation. I think it was you, but it was anywhere. It was recently that really kind of made it make sense, because again, I'm like, again, magic internet money, I don't understand, because you can't just go and just print fake money. You know, we can print money, but we have to have permission to print money and to throw more money back in through our mint. And it was something that they said it was basically a commodity, and anything that somebody has value. So I have something that's of value to you. So I was thinking it as money instead of as a trade of something that has value. Maybe the value is something that I've said. Maybe the value is, you know, a piece of art I've created. Maybe the value is, again, my IP. But that was, it was kind of pulling it into that's, oh, other people see value in it. Therefore, that's what they're willing to pay for it. Because again, I was just thinking money, 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 and you can't print money. So I don't know if that kind of helps anybody with that. So now
I'm going to extend that a little bit further. So
okay,
even our money, our Canadian dollar, yes, it's backed by the government. It is no longer gold-backed currency. It used to be a long time ago, but it's been off the gold standard for quite some time. That money has value because people perceive it has value. There have been historical cases where countries have entered periods of hyperinflation, and they've had to literally restart the currency because the prior currency be like 8 billion whatever for a loaf of bread. And you know, people, like, you might have heard stories of people going to the bakery with a wheelbarrow full of money. Those were real situations. They actually happen. But really, all it comes down to is perceived value. And when we're talking about different currencies, crypto or otherwise, think of them as units of measurement of value. So think of them as centimeters or inches or millimeters or whatever, but in relation to value. Okay, I think that helps understand a bit. So cryptocurrency mining rigs are set up. These are essentially the computers that do the heavy lifting. They go through the blockchain, they analyze the data, try to verify the data, and that's what creates a new block. These rigs are essentially server computers with very powerful video cards, is generally what most people are using for the crypto mining. They're very power intense, they require cooling, and eventually there's going to be kind of a break-even point where does the cost of running the rig make sense for the payment for the money that you're getting out. So then once the rigs are set up, the ledger is downloaded, and that's where they do the work. That's where they're doing the analysis. And then once the analysis is done and they're like, okay, we think this is what it is, it goes back out in the blockchain, gets verified by the other computers who are working on the blocks of data. And then the first past the post gets a token, call it a Bitcoin for this example. and they'll get a portion of the transaction fees for the transactions they were analyzing. The people who verify also get a reward, but it is significantly smaller because they weren't the first one to mine that coin. So any quick questions about mining? We do have a special tax treatment thing we're going to get into in a little bit. So these blocks of data are all non-fungible. It essentially means that, like, you know, they can't be altered, right? So non-fungible tokens is another application of the blockchain. One example is NBA Top Shots. I don't know, has anybody heard of NBA Top Shots? So essentially you can go to nbatopshots.com, you can buy a pack of cards, which essentially is like, I think it's three or five like clips of one of their players doing something. You know, maybe it's LeBron James doing a dunk, or, you know, Vince Carter, you know, hitting a 3-pointer, or the Kawhi Leonard 3-pointer against the Phillies. That would be probably quite a valuable. They're released in different levels of rarity. So maybe there's 1,000 of this one, 100,000 of this other one, 50,000 of this other one. And of course, that creates perceived value. And one thing that was interesting about Top Shots was the NBA players were buying them. Imagine how much Kawhi, you know, LeBron James' favorite clip of himself with the serial number 23 would be worth, right? This is where, and again, it's all perceived value. So there are different ways you can be involved. You can be making them. That's what NBA Top Shots does. You can be investing in them. That's what several of my family members do. Or you can be trading them. That's also what they do. So NBA Top Shots is also a marketplace. You buy your non-fungible token, your Top Shot, and then you can sell it to other people who want it, who want to collect like maybe a sequence, or they have a player they love. And of course, they have contests within it. So like, you know, if you collect, you know, 5 of a certain clip or whatever, or these 5 different clips, you can trade it in for something better and things like that. So they've really gamified it really well. It's an interesting opportunity. Where I think you're going to see more applications of this are in the music and art world. So one of our customers is collaborating with some artists to have an NFT auctioned off that is going to be the unique NFT related to that piece of physical art. So every time that NFT gets traded, every time it gets sold, a royalty is going to go to the artist, a royalty is going to go to this organization we're working with. And then, of course, the bulk of the funds are going to go to the seller. So it's really interesting to see how that's going. There was a recent one where a band, they recorded a show and they sold they auctioned off as a unique one for $6 million. There was another one with Sotheby's with the Bored Ape. They sold, I think it was 1,000 Bored Ape NFTs, and it was $25 million. So people perceive value in this. People are paying ridiculous amounts of money for this. So Tanya, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because Rod's talked to me about the NFTs. I did not know that's what it meant. But yeah, and he'd explained it again with the art, because, you know, my brother-in-law is an artist, and he said that, no, he should create one, just create it and give it to the kids and let his kids, you know, be able to get money off it. So with that, it's digital art. And then each time it's sold, that's a digital print. Is that that's a good comparison, is it?
It's kind of like that, but it can't be reprinted. It's unique.
Oh, it can't be reprinted. Okay.
Right? Like, I mean, you could make a visual representation of the artwork or whatever, but you're not recreating the NFT.
All right, and he just came in. This is being recorded and is going to be put out to everybody. So if that's something to add, come on in and add.
Did he run away?
Yeah, he did. He ran away.
Okay. So just before we move on, are there any questions about non-fungible tokens?
I have a question.
Yes.
How is there something there in the filed extension that stops it being copied?
What do you mean? Like
the non-fungible tokens, right? So they can't.
So if it were to be copied, like the visual representation could be copied, but the uniqueness, the non-fungible portion of it could not be.
Is there like I've always wondered, is there like an extension? I mean, it's stored as a file, right? It's a file.
Yeah.
How do you stop copying it? I mean, how do you prevent it?
No, that's a good question. I don't have the answer to.
I've never understood that.
Yeah, I Sorry, I don't have the answer to it.
Rod has the answer.
Rod has the answer as he just walks by.
Yes, he's going to get his phone. So for those of you who have never seen him, that is my husband, Rod. And yes, he has the answer to this. So he will be our guest, our special guest on here. So he's looking it up. So he said something to you on the blockchain. He says, hang on, let me get my phone. No, you have to bring it to me, Rod. Okay, so Lori's joined us. Lori, I am going to go ahead and invite you in as a panelist. It is up to you should you choose to accept to make it interactive. And Bethany and Kristen, if you guys have changed your mind and don't have that invite, just throw it into the chat. Again, it's up to you if you want to come on here. So why don't we just move on and we'll table that to give him time to find it.
Excellent.
And then we'll get back to that.
Because it's going to apply to the next section as well, which is the other applications of blockchain. So, you know, these are just some examples of what people are doing with it. Smart contracts, I think, is going to be very exciting because that will like prevent data loss from things like fire, water damage, people losing things, people forging things. It's going to be very important. It's already starting to be used in supply chain management, especially farm to table food, particularly in the organic realm, and auditing those supply chains. There's excitement around the healthcare industry, other important databases, and perhaps the biggest is capital markets and the quicker settlement of transactions of large dollar amounts. If anybody's ever dealt with a customer who's sending a large dollar amount, it usually takes several days. But when things are done within the blockchain environment, so via cryptocurrency, for example, those things can be settled almost instantaneously. And for the anti-money laundering, it seems the opposite, but like I think the long-term idea is to actually have wallets tied to a specific customer, and to have that, you know, KYC or know your customer work done ahead of time, so that it facilitates an ease of transaction of large dollar amounts. I see somebody wants to speak. Tanya.
Yeah, sorry, just going to jump in here. There's one of the apps out there that we have all heard of, does use blockchain. And because of Jonathan and I having this conversation way before I started, you know, I met with them as soon as they did, I said, oh, I understand it's blockchain. And that's Veeam. And Veeam has been operating on blockchain ever since they came out. And so the money is able to go in a little bit quicker simply because of all that. If it does not go through Veeam, the Canadian Payment Association I do believe it's 5-day standard. It has to sit and it has to wait. If money is going out earlier, such as with payroll companies, you know, if they do that, they're actually funding it. But Veeam does use blockchain, and they were the first ones that I was aware of. I'm sure they're not the only ones out there using it, but just to your point, Jonathan, yes, because of that, they're able to get everything through quicker. Again, with going through blockchain, they've done all the, you know, the KYCs and all of that. So
yeah, just to give a quick kind of like understanding, big companies like Ceridian or ADP, when they're withdrawing the payroll, the fees that they're charging the customer don't actually cover their costs. Where they're making a lot of money is by holding those funds they've withdrawn for a few days and getting the LIBOR rate, or London Interbank Overnight Rate. So they're getting a small amount of interest on, let's call it, you know, $30 billion, right? Which really adds up over time. So that's one of the common things. Any quick questions?
Nope. I was gonna add, that's how the insurance companies make their money as well too.
Yep.
When I was in the industry, it was for every dollar brought in, $1.33 was paid out, but it was within the money sitting there from the time they collected it to the time it is paid out in that exact same thing. So that's something that's been common for a long time.
Yeah, hundreds of years. So just before we continue, does anybody have customers who are working in other applications for blockchain? No? Okay, well, let's move on. We are burning time pretty quick, so I do want to get through some of these things. Sales tax. Cryptocurrencies are considered an exempt supply, so there's no ITCs. You would not charge HST or GST on them, right? There is no published guidance from CRA about NFTs, but having read some stuff, having learned some stuff, having spoken with some lawyers, it's our opinion that you know, businesses that are buying and selling a good or manufacturing a good, it is a good. It is not a commodity. So sales tax should be charged at that point. But if somebody's collecting it like artwork, it's very different treatment. So this one is an area where I would really watch for future guidance from CRA. I would guess that eventually they are going to say that HST is required on the transfer of any good, including an NFT. And then finally, mining has some proposed changes. You're going to get the PDF version of these slides. I hope the link works. It does take you to the proposed changes page. And what those proposed changes are is, as of February 4th, 2022, when the law takes effect, which has not received a royal assent, there will be no ITCs on digital mining or related services. So if you have somebody who's buying mining equipment tomorrow and they're paying somebody to set it up, those ITCs cannot be claimed because it would end up in a refund position all the time. That's as of February 4, 2022.
So what about the ITCs on the purchase of the equipment?
No.
So absolutely nothing to do with the mining. So
February 3rd and prior, you're fine to claim the ITCs.
Okay, so I did last.
February 4th and after.
Actually, you know what? I didn't, because I didn't HST register them, so we don't have to worry about that anyway. We're good.
Okay.
That's good to
Well,
know.
he's under 30,000.
He
Okay.
absolutely is. Absolutely is.
All right. So the next big tax question is it active business income or passive business income? Is activity taken in a business-like manner? Is this, somebody in a dorm room with a server who's dabbling in crypto? Or is this somebody with a small farm of servers in a warehouse that's actively mining crypto? Or is this, someone who's producing a one-off NFT versus producing thousands of NFTs? Is the business carried out in a commercially viable manner? That's a very important question. And then, is a product or service being promoted? These are all pretty standard questions you're going to find when you look at active versus passive income into the CRA. And most importantly, is there an intent to profit? Okay. So some might say people who are buying the NBA Top Shots, it's not really an organized, systematic, commercially viable thing. They're not promoting things. There's might be an intent to profit, but they're not really done in a business-like manner. So passive income, think of it as investing. It's typically atypical. It's atypical to business operations. So say, for instance, you receive payment in cryptocurrency, you hold that cryptocurrency, and then you sell it. Your business is not cryptocurrency. So that would really be treated like an investment, any gain or loss there. Investing or limited trading is a good example of this kind of income, accepting payments as well. And of course, maybe collecting and then reselling NFTs on a smaller scale. If you're buying in bulk and reselling, I would say that you're a reseller or a distributor, and that the ITC rules would apply, and it would be active business income and not passive. So this is a really important thing to understand. Are there any questions about active versus passive income? Sales tax and ITCs? All right, let's continue. Let's look at some example journal entries. So this is something that Michelle Duford pointed out to me that was really absent from the slides that I used at CPB. And that is the quantity of cryptocurrency acquired, right? Because you could sell the dollar amount that you need to, but you need to recognize the gain or loss on the units that you sold, right? And as anybody who's read anything about it, people really aren't buying Bitcoins anymore. They're buying fractions of Bitcoins. So that is something that will allow for more people to enter the market and more liquidity in the market. So in this example, very simple, somebody spent $15,150 to buy let's call it a Bitcoin valued at $15,000. They paid $150 transaction fee. Some people might want to include that transaction fee as part of the cost of the cryptocurrency, because it depends on the nature of the business, whether or not you want that to be straight up, expense or part of the cost of the unit for when you're recognizing your gain or loss. So selling cryptocurrency is the next transaction. we'll see they sold that Bitcoin that they bought at $15,000. They sold it for $18,300. They had to pay a transaction fee, and they had a gain on sale in this case. Now, as we all know, the cryptocurrency markets kind of flipped on their head in, I think it was February. So you might see this gain on sale be a loss in sale, be in the debit position. It's something to think about. In this example, somebody is selling that same Bitcoin they purchased originally for the same value, but they're selling it for a different cryptocurrency. There's still a disposal. There's still a taxable event here. So that's something to keep in mind. When the guidance first came out, it was when it converted to a fiat currency, that's euros, Canadian dollars, yen. Now the guidance is whenever there's disposal. So if you're going from Bitcoin to Litecoin to Ethereum to Dogecoin back to Bitcoin, those are all taxable events. So that's something that's very important to track. We're going to get into record keeping in a moment. Paying with cryptocurrency, similar idea. You have to recognize the gain on sale. Now, in this example, is set up for Alberta, so there's only GST. And in this example, they purchased an asset or an expense. They didn't buy another crypto or anything like that. And as such, the tax treatment of whatever is being purchased would be as normal. It would be like similar to buying it in US dollars or something like that. The other way around, accepting the cryptocurrency, if you are allowing your customers to pay you, you need to charge the appropriate sales tax rate. Whatever governs your taxable supply, that's the sales tax rate you need to be charging. And there's just some numerical examples, literally made up. So let's talk. Well, actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break. Are there any more questions about any of these things? These journal entries. Okay. I think we should pause here and ask a question. So.
Oh, right. We need the polls.
Can we do it a little bit differently? I just want people to type in the chat something that is an application of the blockchain. Anything that's an application of the blockchain. Oh, I can't actually write to everybody.
And even if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. Your CPD credit does not matter if the answer is right or wrong. It just matters that the answer is there. Even put a couple of question marks. I'm not sure. It's okay.
I don't see anybody. Okay. All right. Cool. We've got a couple answers. Any application of the blockchain.
Okay, so Sima replied, but to me, so
Okay.
speedy international money transfer. So I can see that. I got the peanut gallery back here who says health records. So yep, we've already talked about that.
Yep. All right, Tanya, I'll let you do the countdown whenever you're ready.
All right, last chance. Again, it does not have to be a correct answer. It just needs to show that you're actively listening. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that poll is closed.
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if they do answer after the fact, that can still be captured.
It's not supposed to be because
Okay, understood.
yeah, it's not because if we were doing it like a poll, once the poll is closed,
it's closed.
It's closed because it kind of shows that they weren't actively paying attention at that point, and maybe they did later and threw it in later. So yeah, to be proper with the rules, no.
Okay.
I'd love to, but it's not my rule.
We got to play by the rules. So record keeping is probably the most challenging part about dealing with blockchain technologies. Most of these entrepreneurs who are in this realm are not, they're great with their ideas, they're great with the technology, they're not really good at keeping records. So this is the CRA's guidance. I'm just going to read it off. Cryptocurrency exchanges have different standards for them, for the different kinds of records they keep and how long they keep them. If you use cryptocurrency exchanges, we suggest that you export information from these exchanges periodically to avoid losing the information necessary to report your transactions. You're responsible for keeping all required records and supporting documentation. So some of these things would be, what was the transaction? What was the trade? What happened? Right? That's number one. That has to be in Canadian dollars. And quite often these crypto exchanges are reporting in US dollars. So if you can get the US dollar equivalent, you can usually get from the Bank of Canada, which is the acceptable one for CRA, the exchange rate at that time. Now, in a perfect world, you're going to get the date and time of the transaction, because the time matters in extremely volatile markets. Something could open at $24,000 and close at 15. It's very, very possible. So keeping track of those things is very important. Keeping track of where the money went, in other words, the digital wallet that it left, the digital wallet it went to, those are important. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing. I had some speaker notes, but I don't have them up, unfortunately. But are there any questions about record keeping?
Just to kind of add to that, I know what Rod uses, and that was my big thing with him. And he's again on the mining side, and the wallet that he uses, I've just said as long as it pulls it out, gives the detail, and he's found them into, it exports into Excel, and it looks really, really similar to your stock. Here's what was mined, here's the date, here's the value, here's this, here's that. And so it does export beautifully. So there are some that don't. And I just said to him, if it doesn't show me this, and this, don't even talk to me about it. If it does show these, and there were many options for him to be able to go in and find an online wallet that does have all of that in there. So that is something that is fairly common, but not necessarily across all of them. So again, yeah, be careful on that.
Okay.
Rod's wallet is like, he's got a USB. It's a USB wallet. So anybody can take it and plug it in. So it's like if he loses his wallet and there's cash, there's nothing that says it's him. Anybody can take it, plug it into any computer. No, apparently not. But anyway, but yeah, so
you have to have the key to the wallet.
That's what he's just saying. So anyway, again, magic internet money. But anyway, the fact is that yes, record keeping, the majority of them will have really nice reports that you can download, but I don't believe all of them have the same type of reporting on it. And that's what I was worried about with knowing what CRA is wanting, very specific things for that.
And there are situations where records are there temporarily but not kept permanently, so you really need to pull this stuff as soon as it happens and back that up yourself. It's the taxpayer's responsibility, period. And that's where the CRA ends on that one. You can't blame the exchange. They're not going to care. If somebody is in a situation where they're trying to look back in time, I'm very fortunate to know somebody who's highly involved at a very high level in crypto, in digital mining, and he suggested CoinGecko for historical information. So yeah, there are definitely industries that are peripheral to it. So one of his side hustle is taking older equipment from the very big miners, because essentially when crypto crashed, it was considered very volatile. VC investment, those kinds of high risk investment, they dried up. So to continue funding operations, these large crypto companies are actually having to sell older equipment, sell assets to either buy new assets or fund operations. It's not a great place to be, but it's the reality of it. He's the middleman. He'll be like, okay, I can get you 50,000 units, 50,000 mining rigs at this price point, and the minimum deal he entertains is a margin of $50,000.
Well, and one thing I just want to jump back to, as somebody who has mining in the house, that as you had said, Jonathan, it will impact the hydro for sure. So if you do have somebody who doesn't want to do that, just an example, we've got where we used to be in the office, which is again probably smaller than a one car garage. It was our old office, was filled with broad. I'm not sure of the number, and he might jump in and tell me the number, but there was probably minimum a dozen cards down there. Our hydro doubled. we've got a pool in the summer, our pool is on constantly. So what I've done is I actually have, here is our pre-crypto amount here, because there's no way to really work it out. I just know before crypto, we still had last summer, or the summer before, whenever we still had our pool heater and pump turned on 24/7. So this is a perfect example of the usages then and the usages now. And I've got an Excel sheet that brings out the difference for the actual, and it's over $300 a month for that. So again, something just to keep in mind that will be huge. And you know what? Expect for their heat to go down, because when it's on there, it heats the whole flipping house. They're hot and they
They
stay
run
on
hot,
there.
yeah.
It's funny, that's what I said to Rod. I said, oh, they're going to start looking and thinking, like, do we have a grow up in there? And it's like, no, come on in, legitimate mining, so yeah. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind, that again, there will be a huge jump in the hydro. And that's one thing that if you're talking to somebody that is claiming it as business income, and with Rod, I mean, he's up several $100s a month, and there is an intent to profit, and he will continue to go up. And that's why I said, at least this way we can write it off. But keep that in mind, that again, the hydro will be expected to make huge jumps, simply depending on how many they have.
Yeah. There is this, so another miner that I know of, they have a small warehouse, and it's part of a larger warehouse complex. Like it's a, commercial kind of building with several small warehouse units in it. Each one is separately metered. So they're very easily able to track that. But in Rod's case, there's a wonderful world called reasonableness, and a reasonable expense to earn business income. And if it can pass that reasonableness test, then you're probably okay. You're probably fine. And
that's where I'm glad that, again, like the pool was already on 24/7, all of this, so we could already show that. Now, another thing, if you do know somebody who is doing mining, something to point out to them that we're actually considering is where I rent office space from. It is all inclusive. I can rent an office space about this much. I'm the only one who's got the key to it. And if Rod goes in and just checks on it and does his things, because he can access remotely to check his hash rate and all that other stuff that I really know nothing about. But I'm like, oh, well, we pay here for hydro, what is going to pay there, which will include the internet and this and that. So there may be something like that you can consider to do. If you do that, I would just make sure that, it's your rental lease is all inclusive for a set period, because you don't want them to go in and
for commercial purposes.
For commercial purposes, yes.
Because like I see this becoming a problem in the future, particularly as a residential landlord with,
yes, and
people setting stuff up.
And this is where our commercial, like that's where our other office is. It's in an old Nortel building that they've broken down. So yes, it's commercial property for commercial purposes. Absolutely. But you're right, that could be a problem for residential landlords not knowing what.
I'll tell you, all future leases are going to include a clause about about digital mining and excessive use of power or water.
Yeah.
Because those that can happen, right? You rent to somebody and they start a grow up, all of a sudden the power bill and the water bill go through the roof.
Well, that's still illegal for a grow up, but a mining
it is still it depends on the size of the grow up.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes, it does.
Isn't it 4 plants or something?
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider that a grow up, but
you can actually get approval to grow for other people. So like you could have a basement operation with 200 plants supporting, 50 people or whatever it is. It's possible.
Wow.
But it's something. Anyway, back to
that's a conversation for another day, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So any more questions about record keeping? This is one of the biggest risk areas I see in the future. I think CRA is going to be very busy with dealing with COVID issues and some of the other things like personal service businesses they've announced that they're really going to be focusing on. But I do see down the road, there are going to be things about crypto. So let's talk about risk. Cryptocurrencies, as we have seen, are extremely volatile. It's all based on perceived value, right? Everything is based on perceived value. Know your customer and know who you're getting involved with. There are a lot of bad actors out there. Ironically, the night before the Wednesday talk at CPB last week, There was a news story on the National about the crypto king who last tally was being sued for $35 million. It was a straight up Ponzi scheme. Straight up Ponzi scheme. There was no intent to really be an honest investment broker. Straight up Ponzi scheme. Look at my lifestyle on Instagram. Oh, now people are begging to give him money. He takes that money, he just furthers his lifestyle. That's exactly what's happened. I really hope they throw the book at him, but we'll see. He has a very good lawyer because he has the money. Organization and record keeping are very important to keep in mind. Because you can't, this is something where it's not easy to go back and find out information after the fact all the time. And financial backing is something I would strongly consider if you're working with someone who's developing new technology or who's doing this as a business, because you need to get paid. Let's be frank. We need to get paid for our services. So if you're starting up with a bootstrap startup who's producing NFTs, they're going to have trouble paying you every month. You need to know how they're funded and what kind of financial backing they have. If they say it's none of your business, I'm saying there's too much risk there for me. Sorry. Another thing to keep in mind is if you do taxes, CRA tracks us as professional tax preparers. So if you're found out to be working with somebody who, I don't know, gets done for tax evasion for something to do with this, they might look at your other customers who are similar in nature. So that could create a big headache for you, real damage to the reputation of you and your business, and of course, extra costs for your customers. And of course, the other big risk is that this is still very new. Legislation is changing. I'm watching for guidance on NFTs because that's something of interest, but there's going to be other things that haven't even been invented yet that are going to impact us in this realm. So in summary, what is the blockchain? Groups of data that are encrypted, connected, and on a distributed ledger. That's what makes it secure. The main business applications are cryptocurrency, digital mining, NFTs, and then the other applications that are still being developed, smart contracts, capital markets, things like that. We discussed the sales tax treatment of it, whether it's active versus passive income, looked at some bookkeeping examples, talked about one of the big risks being record keeping, and then talked about other aspects of risk. The biggest takeaways that I would like people to have from this are, one, the bookkeeping is not that complicated. It is very similar to things you've done before. The tax treatment is very important, and understanding and knowing your customer, know who you're getting into bed with, and make sure that you want to do business with that customer before you accept them as a client. Well, thanks everybody. I guess we should have one more question.
I was
So
we're missing that. Just who learned something? It can be as simple as that.
all right, who learned? Who feels they can handle some blockchain bookkeeping now?
And then just again, enter it into the chat. If you can't access the chat, which is Bethany said, just throw it in the Q&A.
Nice.
Somewhere
love
where
that
I can
answer.
just print it and show. No, that's awesome.
Cool.
So
We actually have 3 minutes left, so I'm happy to entertain further questions, should anyone have any.
well, there's also some courses. Let me
Yeah.
look it up and share it out. That there are some courses I have not taken them yet. It's on I've already registered and I have so many months. I better get my butt in gear, but on understanding them, and it's through Lemoyne, and I will actually send that out with this. But they were like as cheap as like 60 some odd dollars because they're online, they're pre-recorded. And I sat down with Rod and I said, okay, what's going to tell me what I need to know? And basically, if he was interested and he started talking to words I didn't know, I said, okay, that's going to go too far in depth. Because again, you're right. I'm only looking at the bookkeeping. I'm not looking at the investing, but we do need to know the general. So I think there's 3 courses, cost me a total of $150. It's all online. Each course is only a couple of hours each on there, but will give us a better understanding. So I will go ahead and share those out when I send this out for anybody that's also, interested as well.
I believe when I did the IBM Blockchain Essentials, it was actually free.
Oh,
So
was
something
that?
to keep in
Oh,
mind as
okay.
well. Yeah. There are
Okay.
some free certifications out there. I mean, really, it just means that you learned a bit. I don't think it really qualifies you for a whole
Oh
lot,
gosh, no.
but
Gosh, no.
it helps your
That's
knowledge base, helps you speak like intelligently with people about it.
exactly. And I think to actually truly qualify you, that's going to take several years of experience and almost niching and several CRA audits or reviews too, I would think.
Probably. And I think a knowledge of the underlying code and actually how the coding part and mining part work from an IT standpoint. Because I mean, that's something that's well beyond me. Right.
Absolutely. Again, from my perspective, I would just like to go in and have a better understanding than magic internet money. Because I mean,
Yeah.
Rod takes that. But if I'm gonna, again, have to learn how to do it properly, for him, I'd like to be able to open that up and potentially look at this as a niche again for certain things and be able to, again, like you said, Jonathan, have a little bit more of an intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. When it comes to the bookkeeping, record keeping, it's all still debits and credits.
Yep.
The debits,
And
credits, exchange, whatnot. So
think of the bookkeeping for crypto as like a commodity. And then when it comes to mining, it's just the ITC treatment. NFTs, the sales tax question is still kind of up in the air. So really, it's just like these are pretty typical things, but just in a very vanguard realm. And I would say it is still very future forward. People are excited about the technology, but the technology has actually existed for decades.
yeah.
But the application of it for cryptocurrency is the part that's relatively new that got people excited. And so,
Well, and the way I kind of started looking at it is Rod used to day trade. So, again, it was when that gets to a certain point where it again becomes, passive versus active income and whatnot. It never got to that point. It was just always treated as investments. But again, what type of, and that's exactly the way I'm looking at what are we collecting? It's again, the sales, the purchases, the dates, the value, this and that, and then keep track of the fees. And so it's all fairly straightforward. Well, more straightforward than I thought it was once I started looking into it. But again, it's that terminology, which is where I've signed up for those 3 courses so I can learn a little bit more about the terminology and a little bit more understanding.
nice.
So that's good.
All right. Well, I guess if there's no questions, it's a quiet group today. Happy to have been here. Happy to have discussed it. I hope it's, not so intimidating, not so scary anymore. And, next time you have somebody asking you about it, you know what to find out. Who your customer, how organized and record keeping are they? What are they doing?
Absolutely. All right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you very much. And then Rod did come back, Simon, so we did not forget about you. He came back and he said he couldn't find it. Oh, she's gone anyway. So
She
yeah.
left. Okay.
Yeah. He said he couldn't find it anyway, but if he does, I will go ahead and send that link out along with the recording.
I think it's probably, and I mean, this is pure conjecture from somebody who has no idea what they're talking about. I think if you copied it, it would change the hash. I think that's what would happen.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah, so he did say he'd send a picture. I will include that in, or maybe I'll send it to you, Jonathan, first to make sure it
Cool.
makes sense. And then we can include that in the email. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a
Thanks, everyone.
great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.